Good afternoon, everyone. Merch Hunter Ricky back, and we are talking about One Piece Chapter 1085. I want to do a pinpoint focus on some of the words said by Emu. Probably one of the craziest chapters of the year, and that's coming from a string of about 15 chapters that have all seemed like the craziest chapter of the year. In a year where we've got the physical in-person debut of Dr. Vegapunk, a couple, we got a named celestial dragon or a named Gorosei, but this chapter takes the cake. Emu basically stated that a certain day happened back in the Void Century 800 years ago, where Queen Nefertari D. Lily actually betrayed Emu, because we don't know if Emu was a boy or girl or not, betrayed Emu and let the poneglyphs get scattered across the world. They went to places like Alabasta, Skypiea, Wano, Fishman Island. Among those places, they also happen to house ancient weapons, right? So in Alabasta, Robin found the location to the Pluton Witch Rest in Wano. In Fishman Island, the mermaid princess born every so often has the ability to be the Poseidon. We don't know about the Uranus yet, but knowing this, and knowing that Wano is protecting an ancient weapon, knowing that, Skypiea had, like the Shandorans and all that, like just like a race of warrior people, and then knowing that in Fishman Island, the Poseidon is there, right? Two ancient weapons, an army of people in the sky waiting to fight, and all of a sudden they lose a war so badly that they are erased from history, right? They were allied with someone or something called the Ancient Kingdom. And within the Ancient Kingdom, we had a fighter known as Joy Boy. Now, we don't know Joy Boy's race. We don't know what he looked like, what he talked like. We just know that Zunisha stated that when Luffy had turned Gear 5, that it felt like Joy Boy had returned. And this is a big deal. So the first thing I want to bring up is the fact that if Emu stated that on that day Queen Lily had scattered those poneglyphs, that means that the Ancient Kingdom, which we now know has at least 3 members, right? Due to Joy Boy's apology letter to the past Poseidon, we have Joy Boy, the past Poseidon, and Nefertari D. Lily. That's 3 members. Eerily reminiscent of, Luffy's current friends, Vivi and Shirahoshi. If they were making those poneglyphs prior to that day, that means they had known they were probably going to lose, right? Unless they made them fast, and I'm talking really, really fast. But it seems to me that there was preparation for that day because they knew they were going to be betrayed, they knew they were going to lose. Something happened, right? There are a lot of points that I want to bring up, things that we know about the Ancient Kingdom, about the Void Century, and it's not much, right? What we know about the Ancient Kingdom itself is that roughly their technology is 900 years old, which is 100 years before the Void Century happens, right? Or maybe the Void Century is that 100th year, 900 years ago. Anyways, we know that their technology far surpasses anything seen currently in One Piece. So that's most likely one of the major reasons which they were targeted for whatever reason by Emu and the original 20 nations that formed the Celestial Dragons at Marijoa. There's a reason why they attacked the Ancient Kingdom. And barring what we've seen on Lulusia of a kingdom just getting wiped off the face of the earth, or, whatever the One Piece planet's name is, we can maybe assume that that's what happened to the Ancient Kingdom, and that maybe Joy Boy, past Shirahoshi, and Nefertari D. Lily, they might have known something like that would happen. This is why they might have sent the Pluton to Wano to be protected. This is why they might have, I don't know what you could do, or we don't know what happened to the past Poseidon, if she was killed brutally or not. Maybe she died of old age, peaceful life, maybe, who knows. But I would say maybe her involvement in past Poseidon's involvement with the Ancient Kingdom might have led to Fishman discrimination in the current One Piece world. So that's just a couple points there that I wanted to bring up, because it seems to me that like the technology in combination with these people that they were allied with was something viewed as a threat. And maybe Emu way back then, as they stated in chapter 1085, the D are people that are their enemies, the people that they fought against back during that time. So because of that, it's making me wonder if all of those nations were more or less technologically advanced up until the war started or the war ended. Something along those lines of they had the technology forcibly removed from those areas and not being able to access that technology anymore, because it honestly doesn't even seem like Emu and the world government are using that technology at all. Maybe the transponder snails are reminiscent of that, but it really seems like these were like steampunk technologically advanced people, this ancient kingdom. It's making me wonder if Emu was totally threatened by the power, or not even threatened, just wanted to take over the world evil villain style, because either way it's going to make for a good reveal when it happens. A couple other things to take into consideration, like the Tantatas, for example, they were enslaved by the previous king that would then join the 20 kingdoms and become a celestial dragon. Were they at all aligned with Joy Boy, or were they all at all aligned with the ancient kingdom? It remains to be seen, but I'm going to venture as far as to say no. Mainly because their history seems to go as far back as Noland, and obviously as far back as that king becoming a celestial dragon, but no mention of them participating in a great war or anything like that. But if they do, if they did participate, that would be fantastic, and it would just be like another feather in the cap for Oda, because it's just one more special race that has been oppressed for so long, like the fishmen, that they are now finally getting their comeuppance. They got a little bit of it with King Riku, like allowing them to just take things willy-nilly on the island and blame it on fairies and whatnot. But another oppressed race joining Luffy's side in the final war will be so symbolic, and maybe it'll blow Emu's mind seeing the Tantatas fight. Maybe for the first time, who knows? One thing, this is like a kind of just jumbled thoughts video, but another thing to bring up about that day that Emu mentioned is that Queen Lily either made a mistake or purposely planned to drop the poneglyphs off, scatter them across the world. Now, we know someone who can do that. Bartholomew Kuma, before the time skip, to actually initiate the time skip, boofed the Straw Hats across different areas, and we saw it even before that with Perona on Thriller Bark. This just I think even Sai brought it up in one of his chapter 1085 videos. It's kind of right there in our face. So if that's not what happened, that would be shocking to find another way that those things got scattered across the world so fast, and in a way that Emu could not find them. It makes me wonder why Emu and the world government never pursued them, but I think is that they were either too cocky in thinking that maybe no one in the world would be able to find everything and go get the One Piece, and when Roger did it, Emu was probably sweating in their boots, and when Roger went and got himself executed, I think Emu just laughed it off and continued to be cocky. Maybe Emu doesn't know the prophecy of Joy Boy coming back in a certain amount of time to liberate the world again, but it seems that some resting on laurels is happening here when it comes to the world government and Emu, because it really bothers me why they have not pursued the poneglyphs. And it makes me wonder if they just were not able to find them, or it's one of those things don't touch it, don't talk about it, just like the name D. These things can be out in the open, but as long as no one's going for the knowledge of the Void Century, like what happened on Ohara, as long as nobody's actively pursuing all the poneglyphs like Roger, we're not going to do anything about it. We don't need to do anything about it. When we act, it will then tip the world off to something being awry. I I guess that's my idea, is that they wanted to make it seem as nonchalant as possible, because as soon as it's made into a big deal, the poneglyphs would be nearly as popular as the One Piece itself. And I know they are integral to finding the One Piece, but the people that know that are about like a handful of people within the Grand Line itself. And then when you consider that the residents of the Grand Line are just a handful of people within the world itself, you can now see the scale of how the world government decided to take this, because it's like, I mean, 1,000 people on the planet might know about the poneglyphs, and within those 1,000, only maybe like 50 of them will know the importance and the use of the poneglyphs, and within those 50, only about 1 or 2 of them can read the poneglyphs. Feel me? So I feel like that's why the world government decided to only attack people who openly pursue the knowledge versus, you know, taking the knowledge back for themselves. I think maybe it could be as simple as just don't, like I said before, just don't make a big deal out of it, and the world will be none the wiser. So just some points that I wanted to bring up. I have notes here. Some more things to talk about, I would say, is other than the Team Ancient Kingdom that we know, Joy Boy, Past Poseidon, and Queen Lily of Alabasta, we know that Wano had an immense role just because they are holding the Pluton, and we know that more or less people from Wano are the ones who either created the poneglyphs or found the way to write on them. It makes me wonder why the world government just never wanted to fight Wano, especially knowing that everyone in Wano is like sickly and frail for like the past 20 years. I feel like the time would have been ripe whenever. But it also makes me wonder if maybe they were afraid of Kozuki Sukiyaki, I think that's his name, Odin's dad, because if they decided to step foot in Wano and he just raises the Pluton, then, you know, what happens? Especially because we don't really know what the Pluton is other than it is supposedly a battleship. You know, some YouTubers like Dax Sake have presented an amazing theory of, you know, what the Pluton could be, but I think his is the coolest because he thinks it is a giant mole resting under Mount Fuji in Wano. And I can see where the merit is. He has tons of videos on it, so I won't get into it here. But the main point of bringing that up is we have the Sea Kings as one of the ancient weapons. Like Shirahoshi being able to vocalize and ask the Sea Kings for help is massive because they are crazy huge. The ones at the very bottom of the ocean are absolutely massive, and being able to weaponize them is dangerous and makes me wonder if they were beat back then and why were they not killed? Can you not kill them? Is it hard to kill an actual Sea King versus a Sea Beast? Because those are two different types of class of Sea King. You know what I mean? Like, something is not, you know, things are not adding up because we're missing some pieces still. But what, you know, things that we know in a nutshell of the Ancient Kingdom Void Century war fiasco with Emu is Joy Boy wrote an apology letter to the Past Poseidon on a poneglyph. One of the poneglyphs was sent to Skypiea, another to I think to Fishman Island. There's some on Zo, on top of Zunisha, which is the friend of Joy Boy. That cannot be overlooked or overstated, right? We know that Alabasta has one, Wano has some. We don't know where Big Mom and Kaido got theirs. Well, obviously, never mind. Kaido just found his in Wano, so there's that. But we don't know where Big Mom got hers, which is huge, because what if she found them mysteriously? Like, we know Jinbei presented her one, and honestly, I just read the damn chapter cover story and I don't remember where he found his, but we'll talk about that later. Maybe I'll edit it in the bottom of the video or something. But basically all I'm saying is, like, it seems that the special races of the One Piece world, it seems that all of them have some sort of like pre-existing condition prior to the current events of the story. Like, I think the Long Limbs tribes are like have been at war with each other for like as long as the Void Century has happened, so roughly 800 years have passed since they were cool, I think. I could be wrong about that. I'll definitely edit that down too. But all in all, it's just seeming like the special races of the One Piece world, people like the Alabasta citizens, I'm gonna go ahead and call the citizens of Wano a special race because they are like 9 feet tall on average, and they're not just good with swords, they are unnaturally strong and gifted. You know, you have your Amazons who all know hockey off the jump for some reason. Just, you know, all these special people who are getting overlooked. And then I haven't even brought up King and the Lunarians yet, who will like straight up talk about Joy Boy. Like King was like, "You're a Joy Boy" to Kaido. So that makes me wonder if Joy Boy was an Oni like Kaido. Just off the way King was so willing to say that Kaido is him, right? Or, you know, maybe Joy Boy was reminiscent of Kaido, just a very hulking man, 30 feet tall like Kaido, maybe tatted up like Kaido, very, very dominant personality. Or was he a goofball like Luffy, skinny, not very strong when you first meet him, but then you fuck around and find out that he is very, very capable of winning. So something had to have happened to stop someone in Gear 5, because we know that Gear 5 is the heralding of Joy Boy. So we know that at minimum strength, Joy Boy was using the awakened Hito Hito no Mi model sun god Nika. So we don't know if Nika was a part of the ancient kingdom, right? We don't know how long ago the first devil fruit was discovered, nor how long ago the first person ate a devil fruit. You know what I mean? So these are some of the few questions left we have to ask to piece together what happened in the Void Century. I genuinely hope we get the Void Century arc soon, just like Imu sitting on the throne and recalling the last events of, 800 years ago. That would be awesome. Ever since Vegapunk Shaka said, "What if I told you that 900 years ago there was, existed an ancient society with this futuristic technology, better than anything we've seen today," right? Ever since that happened, my mind has been racing. How did a technologically advanced kingdom get destroyed, utterly trashed on by Imu and those 20 kingdoms? Was it simply overwhelming forces? Was it the discovery of naval battleship cannons, something like that? There's just so many questions left unanswered, yet it seems like there's at least a countable amount of questions now. Before it was like, wow, there's so many things we don't know. And now it's like, okay, we know a lot of stuff and we're still confused about this, that, and that, but we're getting there. All in all, I just want to say, like, the fact that we can now say that there was a team Ancient Kingdom, right? We know at least 3 members. And on those 3 members, we can also add some people from Wano, some Skypians, and of those, we can assume some were as powerful as Kalgara and Wiper, or we can assume that they were as strong as Odin, and that these Team Ancient Kingdom, again, had 2 of the 3 ancient weapons that we know of. We don't know where the Uranus is. We don't know who has it, so we cannot speculate on it, other than maybe Imu used it to destroy Lulusia. That's all I can say about that, right? Maybe Lulusia, maybe Imu back then used that same weapon on the Ancient Kingdom, just took them out, just wiped them out completely, and separating the races long enough. After 800 years, people just tend to forget the history. No one was able to remember how to read the poneglyphs. Banning the actual study on the history might have scared it into them to stop talking about it. When you stop talking about something, you tend to forget what it was you were even thinking about and talking about in the first place. I should know, because sometimes I start videos off and I completely lose the idea and I gotta stop, delete the recording, and go all over again, right? But maybe that's why Fishman Island, Shandora, Skypiea, well, Shandora and the Skypians. I want to separate those 2, because although they might be the same, there might be a reason as to why some of them are more like indigenous people looking, and the other ones are more like world government-y type militaristic folk, right? The citizens of Wano, like how how did they, how does the leadership forget? Is it just the fact that only the kings, like we've seen in Alabasta and Wano, only the kings really know the history and do not openly speak about it with the public, probably to keep them protected and to not get Lulusia'd? It's just all these little things. Like, you can see my mind is trying to add the math together, and it's just like, we need to know what happened in the Void Century, what started the war. We need to know who was on the rest of the Ancient Kingdom, like who was that team. We know maybe the leaders, like I said, Joy Boy, past Poseidon, Nefertari D. Lily. We know that they're allies other than the places that they represent. We don't know where Joy Boy is from, right? But we know that we had Fishman Island, we know we had Alabasta, we know we had Wano, we know we had Skypiea. We know we had Zunisha and potentially the Minks back then too. So that's roughly 7 nations plus the Ancient Kingdom itself, making 8. Now, again, through sheer numbers, it does make sense. Oh, maybe Dressrosa was cool with them back then. We don't know, right? But it does make sense that 20 kingdoms coming together overthrew and toppled just 8 nations. So that does add up, but that's the only thing that adds up here. We don't know how the poneglyphs were created, but we know that they were scattered across the world by Queen Lily on a certain day, thus pissing Emu off royally. Emu states, what is the name of Queen Lily, the true name? So that means that he's always had a hunch but never had confirmation until Cobra, that the Alabasta is part of the D clan. This might mean that everyone on Team Ancient Kingdom was part of the D clan when you think about it. This means that Jaguar D. Saul's giants were back in the Ancient Kingdom times too, fighting alongside. We don't know if the ancient giants were doing that, but we know that ones that look almost similar to the Ancient Kingdom giant, or the ancient giants, which would be Jaguar D. Saul's people, were fighting because they are D-clan. We know that for some reason a random D-clan family ended up in Flevens. Trafalgar D. Water Law, right? We know that for some reason the Water Law and the D and the Water are 2 secret names that Law does not go around telling people. He just goes by Trafalgar Law. He does not talk about D or Water. So things to consider as well. And finally, the devil fruits. We don't know how they were made. We don't know about the first person to eat one. We don't know about the first time they were discovered. And we don't know how long they've been on the planet for. So all of that together makes a juicy mystery that I cannot wait to be unraveled. And I hope we find out together and that it is some wild stuff. Like I said, as I started this video, I was more confused than, just as confused as I was at the end of 1085, just as confused as I have been this whole series, and I love it. This is probably one of the greatest secrets ever kept, and I'm really excited to find more information out with you all. I have fun discussing these topics with you. I want to thank you for watching the video. If you could drop a comment or a like, let me know how you liked it. If you got this far and you're new around here, feel free to subscribe. I promise I won't disappoint you. And with that, I want to say have a great Sunday afternoon, everybody. My name is Merch Hunter Ricky, and I love talking about One Piece. Have a good day.